mean, if you look in the short term, 12 months, 24 months, I think the risks are mainly along the continental borders, along the line of actual control.
Right.
And why I say that, and these risks are not minimal. And why I say that is, I already mentioned to you that very large number of soldiers have got deployed on both sides. But compounding this problem is the fact that the confidence building measures between India and China, which held peace along the LAC, have now completely broken down. And so there is a great deal of mistrust on both sides. There is a great deal of suspicion on both sides. There is more aggressive behavior on both sides. So if you ask me over the next 1 year, 2 years, where the flashpoints will come, I think it will come on the land borders. If you look 5, 6, 7 years down the line, then maybe you will also find challenges at sea because you'll find greater and greater presence of the PLA Navy, which happens in that area.
And you're talking to a lot of people. You're traveling from different, countries and different organizations. What's the kind of like the sentiment? Like, like maybe in a particular, in particular the Indian security community that like you are meeting on a frequent basis. What's the sentiment? Is it just a sentiment of, okay, zero trust and nothing goes? It seems to be also spilling over in the business community, looking at several kind of other communities that we are talking to. So what do you see there as a sentiment indicator?
So sentiment, if you look at the public sentiment in India, has suddenly changed as far as China is concerned. So
right.
And it's impacting not only in the security space, but as you said, it's also impacting on the business space. So it's getting more and more difficult for China to do business in India. Companies like Huawei, for example, have been told that they cannot participate in India's 5G rollout. India is also very seriously looking at Chinese equipment in areas like information technology, communication, power sector, and saying, look, there are vulnerabilities. And of course, it's really impacted the diplomacy and bilateral relations because while China continues to say that, look, let the border issue not affect our overall relations,
right.
India has very clearly said, look, it cannot be business as usual as long as you people are there at the borders. And unless you pull back and status quo is restored, we cannot get back to normal in bilateral relations. So I think it's had a very large sort of impact.
And when you in these communities, like, what is the most asked question that you recently hear? Like, maybe either directed to yourself or like, that is really kind of discussed. What's the kind of like the pivotal thing that's on people's minds?
I think there is a lot of concern on whether what has happened and the sort of the ongoing standoff on the border,
right?
Can it lead to a larger conflict? I mean, that's, I think, something which is there at the back of many people's mind, including business leaders, because any kind of major conflict could actually really impact the economy of, I would say, both the countries, but maybe India more so. That's something that's always at the back of the mind. Although I mean, my answer is that, look, we don't think it will lead to an all-out war. I think there is that sense on both sides that, look, there are huge costs to war. But then in a situation like this, which I described, sometimes, things happen which you don't want to happen. So even if it's a local sort of conflict, and then it sort of spirals out of control. I mean, we've had 20 soldiers killed in June 2020. In December, January this year, there was a major sort of physical scuffle between Indian and Chinese troops at a place called Yangtze. Now, in conditions like this, when troops are grappling with each other and getting injured, I mean, sometimes there is this chance of conflicts sort of spiraling out of control.